Good morning. How's everybody doing? All righty. So I'm going to tell you the greatest golf shot I've ever hit right now. Okay? So my dream was to play college golf. I was a very mediocre junior golfer, but I was obsessed with playing Division I college golf. And back then, I went to Cal State Northridge, which is just outside Los Angeles, and they actually had the ability to walk on the team. It was 12 guys going for one spot. It doesn't happen a lot nowadays, but I was fortunate to be able to try that. And so I remember getting really excited. It was 4 rounds, and just low score gets on. I mean, it's pretty basic. And so through 71 holes, I'm tied for that spot. And it's me and Jim coming down to the 18th hole. It's a par 5 downhill. And I remember just striping this drive. I'm going, all right, easy game, right? And so we walk up, and Jim hit his ball just a few yards ahead of me on the fairway. And at that time, I had a decision to make. I don't know if you've ever had to make a decision in your life where do you go for it? Do you lay up, right? And so it was a downhill shot. There's water short right, bunker back left, roughly in the actually about 190-ish range. So what do you think an 18-year-old's doing, par 5, second shot, laying up or going for it? Of course, come on. There's no thinking about this at all. So I remember grabbing my 5-iron and hands got a little sweaty. Knees a little weak. And I got behind, I said, well, just don't go in the water. Now, and so I'm getting myself to get ready. Get over the shot. Just don't go in the water. Bloop. In the water. Double bogey. Get the call from the coach. Hey, you gave it a good try. Unfortunately, Jim beat you. Maybe next time. Now, I prefaced that story with saying that was the greatest shot I've ever hit. If that's the greatest shot I've ever hit, not very good, right? However, it exposed me. It exposed a blind spot that I had. Up to that point, I thought golf was, okay, I get P2 position in here, and don't forget to shallow it out here, and if I get my weight into the left side, I was obsessed with that golf swing. I thought it was just a cause and effect, right? Great golf swing, great shot. For 71 holes, it kind of worked. And then when I needed it at its most, choke job, ball in the water. And that was like, wait a second, what happened? Why did I start feeling different? Why did that swing get short and hold off? And that's when I realized that there was many layers to golf. And so fast forward, there is a good ending. I tried out for the team the following year. I did make it, played some really good golf. Played 3 years, got a scholarship. And again, I was proud that in that year, it wasn't me now going to the range more. It was me understanding that how I was playing had some other layers to it. And I could actually train those. So fast forward, I become a member of the PGA. I've been teaching for about 30 years. And when I first started coaching golf, it was all about the swing. It was all about the mechanics. Fine, I needed to help people understand cause and effect and where the ball goes. And then I started giving more and more lessons. Mr. Smith would come to me, hey, how'd you play last week? 88 again. 88? In that lesson, you were striping it. I thought for sure this was going to be the week you broke 80. No, still slicing in the trees. And I'm going, wait a second. In a lesson, I give good information, right? That was when I was an instructor, not really a coach, telling somebody what to do. And I found that in that 1 hour lesson, I could probably help them perform better in that environment. But I was doing very, very little to transfer that to the environment that mattered most to them. Process, of course, is going to be a part of this. Back then it was, for me, number 7, the result was only based on swing, was only based on cause and effect. Ball went right, glove face open. That makes sense, right? Makes sense. So stop tilting, stop coming under plane and holding it off. Stay level, go like this. Cause and effect. And that's how I went through golf for a long, long time. And I think a lot of our students look at it that way still. Give me that quick fix to make the ball go from there to there. Oh, just roll the hands over. Oh yeah, that worked. And then when they're in a different state, we're going to call that, those same patterns are not going to show up the same exact way. So because I was obsessed with performance and why somebody performed one way one day and one way the other way, I couldn't just always put it into that it was swing. Yeah, we have different motor patterns and stuff, but why would these motor patterns change? So through more and more research, we know learning is state dependent. I have 3 children. They're all older now, but I remember when they're growing up and you'd see a report card, and my son, he would get A, C. Huh, that's interesting. And he's a film major now, so whenever he had a film class in high school, he did really, really well. And that math class, not so much. Now, did he have the skills for the math? He did, but he would come home, oh, it's so boring. I don't even want to be there, right? And then the next period for the actual film class, writing down notes, interacting, right? It's like, interesting. So learning is state dependent. Performance is state dependent. What state are you in when you're performing? Mentally, emotionally, and physically. And that's what I like to discuss today. So if you look at what happens right before number 6, I use the word state management as my basic definition of the mental game. When you ask people what is the mental game, a lot of things will pop in their head, and they're all correct, by the way. Positive thinking, visualization, focus, all correct. But how do we create a system around that to actually coach it? So now when we're looking at the state, that state is triggered by an emotion. That emotion is now triggered by a thought and association, which is triggered by what am I focusing on in that moment. David spoke about the rattlesnakes, right? How a 3-foot putt could be interpreted many different ways. Very important. That interpretation will have a direct effect on your emotion and a direct effect on your body. So we're talking about stress response here in a few minutes. The mental game does not end when the ball's finished or in the hole. So, no, there's a lot of stuff going on in between shots. So we call that post-shot routine. Transition from one place to the next, right? Managing our state. So I don't know if anybody coaches post-shot routine. I'm going to do a quick one on this, is that after the shot was struck in college, hit drive, snap hook trees, slam club, you suck, and put the club in the bag. It was very consistent, so it was a routine. Okay, very critical, very judgmental, and then I get to that next shot, crap, I gotta get this, I just 3-putt last hole, I gotta get that back, screw it, let's just go, right? No focus, no decision making, risk taking, fast, and so now I was on the old bogey train. Emotional management, come on, didn't exist for me because I did not know how to take a shot, learn from it, instead of being judgmental and critical. So curiosity is a superpower. Curious, I'm learning from every single shot and experience that's in front of me. David and I were talking at breakfast this morning about how great players, great putters, how quickly, I call it pattern recognition, how quickly can they look at the environment and make an accurate decision, right? This is Brad Faxon. 2 putts, I got the speed. Woo, that's pretty good. While other people like 45 minutes, it's still, I don't know what it is, right? So are we paying attention to our environment? And that's part of when we're in an optimal state. So this is my basic performance loop, is that swing matters. It does. I want to know what your state is as you're pulling that club back. Are you focused, confident, calm? Or are you distracted, doubt, fearful, don't go left? It's a skill. And so I want my students to be more self-aware of what they are thinking, feeling, and doing before they execute a golf shot. They spend all this time working on their drills and getting the club in the right position. Awesome, keep doing that. But I want them to have more self-awareness of what's the best version of me right now to show up for this. And how am I going to get focused? I'm going to see that shot tracer. Okay, that's cool. I'm going to remember that great shot I've hit before. Oh yeah, let's do that, right? There's a lot of time that could be used properly, or we can keep running the same patterns. So I started to develop a company, Flowcode, about 4 years ago because I wanted to create more models about the mental game. I went to a sports psychologist years ago. I've been mentored by some fantastic mental game coaches, and yet I still felt there was a little missing pieces of cause and effect and how do you train it, right? Because I'll be honest, back in the day when I was competitive, I had a mental game coach that says, just think positive and take some deep breaths. That was a 1-hour session just on that. I'm like, I just bleep in 3-putted last frickin' hole to miss the cut, and you want me to be, that's where my thought was. Come on. It's not about positive thinking, okay? Breathing, which we're gonna talk about later, is extremely important tool. When are you using, what's the ratio you're gonna use it at? That's part of this. So I want all of you to think about when you played your best golf, what were you thinking, feeling, and doing? And when you had an off day, was there a different state? Was there a different thinking pattern, a different emotion, a different state? I'm biased, and I would think there probably was, because that state was going to affect your golf swing. Now, again, I'm biased, but when you look at where coaching has gone in the last 30 years, it started off as mechanics for sure, right? We are helping people understand proper fundamentals, proper cause and effect, to get them to improve putting, to get them to improve hitting their drives. Those are all mechanical skills that we want to be able to help them with. They have to have skills. They have to. And then what we started to see, and then we had, we were filming on little camcorders back then. Okay, that was a little bit of a visual feedback. That was cool. And then the next wave, which happened for me in around 2000, was the physical fitness industry now kicks in a little bit more. I work for a company called Body Balance for Performance. This is right before what TPI, when they took off, is understanding structure of the body is going to govern the function. Right? I used to hit the ball pretty far in college. Not anymore. Range of motion is like this now. But it used to be way over here, right? So your function of that swing is going to be predicated on the structure of your body. And I was obsessed with that. Okay, now I know what the mechanics need. Now if I get them in better physical shape, and they're going to do their stretches, right? And they all do their stretches, right? Right? Unless you're, the elite ones. They barely warm up to go to the range, most of our students, right? But I thought that was going to be a missing piece. And it's a very important piece. Let's get them to understand how their body works. Let's improve that, less injuries, all those things. So then it started getting into, I would say, we had TPI. Then we started getting more and more into what I would call club fitting, optimized equipment. We're starting to get radar systems now. We can start to see spin rates. And now I am not a club fitter. So, but I was amazed that you can get 20 extra yards on a driver by just changing this ball with this driver, with this shaft, without changing the swing. I go, that's optimizing your performance. That's awesome, okay? And then I would say about 5 years ago, we started seeing biomechanics really kicking in, right? We started to see force plates, We started seeing 3D. And now we can get 3D on your phone. Here's a sports box. I can put you on there, right? And what's going to happen the next few years is mind-blowing, right? We're going to know more about somebody's golf swing in one frame than anything else. And that's awesome, right? We get to measure that. We get to see cause and effect. We get to see, hey, if we did this. So I'm all on board for that. Yet the next frontier is going to be mental game coaching for sure. The person that's in front of you, we need to coach them. We need to know their goals and their motivations. We need to know what bothers them on the golf course, what distracts them, what gets them irritated, what gets them frustrated. I don't know if we ask enough of those questions. We optimize performance through the basic cause and effect. Awesome, keep doing it. I'm inviting you to also look at that the mental part can be a part of your coaching because learning is state dependent. A lot of your players are getting to a lesson, especially like if it's the first lesson. I hope I don't embarrass myself. I hope he doesn't think I have a horrible swing. They're already way out there, okay? And they haven't even hit one shot yet. So good luck getting that nice smooth rhythm as they chop it down again. So learning is state dependent. We as coaches can help that learning environment. We can understand them more and what makes them tick. We need to know what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and what they're doing. So the mental game for me is about state management. What state am I in a shot? Now I know this is small. We have some of those in the workbooks. We have our fear to flow there. So we look at this word flow. What the heck is flow? Well, when I was getting my doctorate, it was called the zone. An athlete was playing in the zone. Okay. Now, fast forward now, over 20 years, that word has been switched to flow because it's actually something that can be researched in a university setting. We actually know neurochemicals and brain waves that are associated with that. This term, flow, came from a professor by the name of Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who coined the term about 30 years ago, and then it started to take on a life of its own. And a couple things I'll share as we go on, but what I want you to look at today is not that it's only a fear state, nervous, anxious, and then a flow state. Most golf's played in between, okay? But if we can be more aware of where we're at on that scale, and then do something that maybe gets me more forward about that, that would be obviously great. So flow is peak performance. We feel our best. We're doing our best. We're fully immersed in the present moment. We believe we can actually execute the shot that's in front of us. We look forward to hitting the shot. Oh, there's a novel idea. I can't wait to hit the shot. Okay? So flow is a state, and yet a lot of our golfers are playing in a fear state. Now, fear seems like this really strong word, but how many times have we been anxious? Have we been nervous? Have we been stressed out to the point where it affected our ability to focus, our ability to make a decision, our ability to feel it in our hands? David was talking about guiding, right? But on the practice green, on the course, that first 5-footer, but I thought it was only this putting stroke. Just keep doing the putting stroke more. Well, there was some interference there that was not dealt with. So fear is going to start with anxiety. It's going to start with in the future, what could go wrong. And we're going to be talking a lot about this idea of a threat trigger. Well, flow is something that can be trained. Being fully immersed in the present moment, which is going to be our first one that we're going to talk about. So this fear loop. And I usually start this off with all my players. They fill out an assessment. I want to understand certainly about them, their goals. But I do have this little part of like, are there any shots that make you nervous on the golf course? And nervous is a very loose term because I just want to see and hear how they interpret that. And a lot of the things that I talk about is interpreting a word or an emotion or something in that moment. So and I always ask, is being nervous on the golf course good or bad? And some people say, oh, it's bad. Other people, it's good. And sometimes it depends. Is being stressed, having pressure. I could just keep throwing those words in to see what's their interpretation of them. That anxiety is, I am looking into the future of something I don't want, which is a threat. And when we have that threat, and David talked about it before, is I am going to fight, flight, or freeze. Fight it, okay, take it on. Flight, whoosh, let's get the heck out of here. And then freeze would be like full-blown yips, can't even take the club back, right? So our stress response is the interpretation of what's in our environment and what's going to may or may not happen. Yet a lot of our golfers are spinning in their head, being anxious and stressed and triggered by their environment with zero tools to bring that back to even a neutral state, much less a flow state. So fear does start with being distracted in the future, and then you're going to see the next thing down is the threat trigger, which I'll explain even in more in detail in a moment. When somebody's in a fear state, instead of being confident, it kicks in doubt. I don't know about this one, huh? I don't think I can do this, right? And there's just this, and they're going to hit it anyways, by the way, but they're not in a state of being confident. And we talked about stress response is now the thought triggers an emotion, the emotion triggers a physical reaction, which, again, do you think that's going to affect grip pressure, tempo, timing, sequence? Yes. So let's look at, all of our players have experienced this, we've all experienced it. And then when somebody's in a fear state, it does not stop when that particular shot's over. In fact, it can sometimes be reinforced because, see, there I go again, never do this well. And they're judging themselves, they're very critical after the shot. You stink, Rick, I can't believe, oh, look at another day, I just messed up, right? The self-talk is, woo, okay? And they're in between shots, they're beating themselves up, posture's down, and they're in a bad mood. The little white ball is dictating their emotional state for the entire day. Hey, I've been there. I get it, okay? But we can improve their skills to be able to help them before and after those shots. So fear is definitely something that does take over, whether they're going to call it stress, pressure, anxiety, but it's a fear response. I don't want that, please, 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 okay? And then the swing is going to change. Now there's highly talented players that even if they're in a fear state could probably make it work sometimes, but it's not sustainable as we know. So of course there's a solution here, flow. So back to Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, is he sent out a basic questionnaire. This is again 35, 40 years ago. He sent out a questionnaire to athletes and musicians and surgeons and teachers, right? And where his background with psychology was, which ended up turning into the name positive psychology, is when we're at our best, what are we thinking, feeling, and doing? What leads to greatness? What leads to excellence? It's not asked a lot. Abnormal psychology is, what's wrong with somebody, let's fix it. Fair enough, I get that. Okay. But flow had to do with, he got all these questionnaires back and he's going, whether it was a surgeon, a teacher, an athlete, they had some very common experiences about excellence and peak performance. There might be something to this. And that's where the positive psychology movement / flow states started to come from. There is a map to take us into more of that flow state. And at the time, I think he came up with 12 or 13 different avenues to be able to do that, and I'm just going to share a few with you. So the first thing, if you're just going to remember one thing today, flow follows focus. The only way to be in a flow state is to be completely absorbed in the present moment. Now, again, that sounds very cliche. One shot at a time. You can only, well, it's a cliche because it's true, okay? I am immersed in this moment. And I like to ask present-based questions. How is that lie going to affect ball flight? Where's the wind coming from? How firm is that green? What's my carry number over that bunker? Is that going to come out hot? Is that right? Right? I'm in that environment. This is all that matters. Yet, again, when we're fear, we're into, but I don't want to go over there, and that's going to mess up my score. And if I make double, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. And they're not pulled back to being right here. Flow follows focus. And in this day and age, and again, I work with still a lot of very good junior golfers, this little device is changing attention spans very, very quickly. And this is not about being focused for those 4.5 hours. It's about how quickly can you become aware that I'm off task, distracted, and get back on task, refocus. That's the superpower, everybody. And so in the last, what I've been excited about, especially with the college players, they are more open to mental game than ever before. They're listening to podcasts now about mindfulness and breathing and visualization from people that they respect that are not golf related. It might be entertainers, it might be business people. And so now we're starting to see that language show up a lot more. And that's exciting for me as a coach that they're more open to that. But being in the present moment is a skill. And we want to start coaching that more and more. Now, when somebody is in a flow state, instead of looking at the shot as a threat, they look at it as a challenge. I have a friend of mine, he's a neuroscientist at USC, and he goes, Rick, I know it's great to talk about all these models, but he says, am I looking at this as a threat or a challenge? Because then you split off. Threat, stress response, challenge, we take it on. And that's where the interpretation of what's happening in the moment is crucial. I'm going to get to that in a moment. When we are in a flow state, we believe we have the skills to match the challenge in front of us. Yeah, I got this shot. Okay, I believe I have the skills to match the challenge. Confidence, right? And then flow has a lot to do with clear goals. I am very clear on what I want instead of what I don't want. So clear goals, you can tap into creativity. You can tap into visualization. I had a student who was the most analytical player I've ever worked with, just Mr. Trackman, wanted to know his angle of attack, blah, 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 blah. Okay? And on the shot, it was a 5-iron, and I said, hey, on this shot, I want you to see a pink shot tracer with glitter on it, and when the ball hits the green, it explodes into fireworks. Now, I can't repeat what he said to me, which had a few 4-letter words in it. Like, what the heck are you talking about, Rick? Well, I needed to get him out of here and out over there. And so he hits the shot, and I said, so, I bet you could not think of that, right? Yeah, that pink shot tracer and the fireworks. I go, great. So I was using creativity and visualization to give him a clear goal, because he would tend to revert into his head, and don't forget to get, okay, we're going to get downward here, and then let's make sure that I exit left and hold the face off and blah, 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 right? He wasn't playing golf. He was playing golf swing all the time. So when we're ready to hit a golf shot, we are focused in the present moment, confident, we look at it as a challenge, we have an extremely clear goal in front of us. Those are all attributes of being in a flow state. Now, golf has a lot of what we call micro flow, right? If I hit 72 shots that day, you're going to be ebbing and flowing in that. You're not going to be completely in a flow state for those 4.5 hours. There's certainly great players who say they blanked out, or when Colin won the 2020 PGA Championship, in that final round, he goes, I've never been so deeply immersed in each shot. Okay? And then it was maybe fleeting, right? You want that all the time, but you get into that. And sometimes it's for 9 holes, 3 holes, right? But we know it's there, and it can be trained. After a shot in flow, we are less judgmental and critical. That's bad, I'm bad, I can't, blah, blah, blah. And we're more of like, I wonder why that ball went 60 yards left. That wasn't my intention, right? So now I'm the more mature Rick, post-shot routine. Hit drive, snap hook it. I go, that's not a very good shot. Fair. Instead of, you stink, Rick, you're awful, I can't believe how bad your driver is today, right? It's like, oh, that ball went 60 yards left, I wonder why. To me, that's important. Curiosity. Why did it go there? Now again, old Rick would say, well, of course, the club face closed, I always tilt back, I come under play and I flip it. That's exactly true from a cause and effect. I get that physics. I'm not going to argue physics. But I forgot to tell you there was water on the right. My last thought was, don't go right. And I tend to get very fast under pressure. So then I would go, dang it, Rick, you know better than that. Let's get a clear goal. Come on, let's commit. I got to go still get the ball in the trees. Okay? And there's other times I hit a shot, hit it left, and I'm going, Rick, come on. I'm almost surprised it's going there because I felt so good over the ball. And then I know it was physical. So that curiosity helps me move on. Not forget about it. That was another thing one of my mental game coaches. Just forget about it. I hit it into somebody's freaking backyard and I got a re-tee. Just forget about it. That's not a skill. That's being in denial, and that's not going to work, by the way. But I go, I wonder what that happened. Was that mental? Was that physical? Come on, you can do a better job. Fine. That's the learning part. That's the curiosity that we want to build into. So in between shots now, someone wants to still be in the present moment. We encourage speaking with their playing partners, getting external, looking into the environment, maybe do some walking meditation, right? The ebb and flow of where their focus is going. So we have a fear state, we have a flow state. And there's different things that, again, are going to trigger that. So let's talk a little bit about this idea about, this is definitely came from flow research. Even though we say it's about confidence, this is a very interesting graph. What Mihai Csikszentmihalyi found is that when people were at their best in a flow state, it wasn't when things were easy. In fact, it was when things were challenging. Because when it's challenging, we go, I got to bring all my resources. I got to focus. And then more and more and more, we're more likely to be focused in that moment. Okay? So this graph is twofold. One is the confidence. Do I believe I have the skills to match the challenge in front of me? Seems pretty basic, but there's a key word that's missing on this. Perception of skills, perception of challenge. And I do this with juniors all the time. Do you have the skills to make a 5-foot putt? Of course, Rick, come on, I'm a scratch handicap. Great. 18th hole, AJGA event, you make the 5-footer, you win. Do you believe you're going to make this? Well, Rick, I don't know. It's like, whoa, you just told me you had the skills for it. But now the perception of challenge went like this. But it's for the AJGA, and people are watching. And they're going to give me the story that has nothing to do with what David said. Is this uphill? Is it downhill? Is it right to left? I mean, that's relevant. Okay? Do I have the skills for this? I've done this flipping thousands of times, right? But that interpretation of what's going on now meant the challenge level went really, really, really high. And internally I go, I don't know if I can do it. Now we're in anxiety and worry mode. So it's hijacked our focus, and it's also created that doubt. So it's a combo. I don't think I can do it, and my focus is all over the place. Not a good combo when attention and confidence are not there. With really, sorry, coming off a cold. With really good players, we actually see the other side of the coin here. 80-yard shot, middle of the fairway, middle hole location, ball sitting up, no wind. This is easy, Rick. And I go, crap. Easy, that's not good. They get bored, too relaxed, fan it, short right. How'd I miss the green with my flip wedge? Well, you weren't fully engaged, you didn't have a clear goal, you didn't challenge yourself enough. It was easy. So those unforced errors are sometimes a breakdown in focus, which is a breakdown because you didn't feel it. You needed all your attention. It's easy. Not a good combination. So with some of those better players, and I see they're kind of a little apathetic, I will always challenge them. okay? I like to do, most of my lessons are done on the golf course. So I can see that, and I'll either do one or two things. I can see they're just kind of going through the motions. They shoot the number 80 yards, no wind, right? And they grab their lob wedge out. And before they hit it, I'll say, I need you to hit within 5 feet. Like, oh, okay. So I give them a clear goal. It's challenging. Or I say, you against me. Now, they don't want to lose to me because the trash talking never ends. So they know there's consequences because I ain't going to shut up if I win. So now, same exact shot, interpreted completely different. I'm going to beat your ass, okay? And then they hit it to 2 feet, and I hit it to 14 feet, and then they start trash talking with me. So the point of this is perception of challenge, perception of skills. And when we can help our students understand what are those times that they are a little anxious and a little worried, it might be just a simple equation here. Yeah, I know I can hit a good drive, but you know what? Sometimes I slice it and there's OB to the right. Okay, that's valid. We don't want them to stay there though, right? We want to be able to shift that around. So flow follows focus, and challenge versus skills are the two biggest skill sets when it comes to peak performance. It's a fun little exercise here for you. When you see that picture, how does that make you feel? Go fishing. And going fishing, I don't want to make assumptions. Is that a positive experience for you? Okay. Anybody else? How does that make you feel? I'm sorry? Relaxed? Okay. Sometimes I hear relaxed, calm, peaceful, excited. I want to go fishing. I want to go water skiing. I want to go on a jet ski. I just want to chill out, have some lemonade. Wow, that's peaceful. But it's just a picture, everybody. But it reminds us of things that are similar to that. Man, that would be cool, because I really love fishing. Man, that'd be awesome, right? So thoughts and perceptions is the story you put to it. How does that picture make you feel?
So lucky to be out here playing golf and fishing.
Oh, love it. So lucky, grateful, awesome. What do you think some of our students may be thinking? Don't let go. Don't go laugh. Fearful, right? But the definition of a lake is just a body of water. Why are we getting all hot and bothered? Because the context is this same lake. It's the same lake in a different context. We're golfers. We know lake is a penalty area. Penalty areas are to be avoided. That's true. And that's where the data points are. It's like, oh, well, okay, left, and then what's my carry here? And there's a bunker there, too. There's some trees, and there's a tier in the middle green. That's all relevant information, everybody. But it's once that perception, once that thought triggers, oh, crap, don't go left. The wind's coming from right to left, and I draw the ball all the time. Oh, my gosh, I'm going to make... Whew. They're further away from problem solving, okay? They're in hit and hope mode. So your thoughts, your perception is going to affect your emotional state. So I was fortunate to be able to go to Augusta a few times to watch the Masters. And this is the 16th hole at Augusta, the par 3. Now, Thursday through Sunday, they want nothing to part of that lake, right? They want to know what their number is. Oh, 152 to carry the right there, 167 to carry the left bunker, right? Okay, great. But something very interesting happens on Wednesday. These grown men are skipping balls across the lake to see who can get closest to the hole. John Rahm made a hole-in-one a few years ago that's on YouTube. So it's like, wait a second, I'm getting confused here. Same hole, 24 hours perceived completely different. Wednesday, we want to use the water for the shot. We want to challenge ourselves. We want to be creative. And then on Thursday, no water, no water, no water, no water. Okay? So my role as a mental game coach is to push people to understand what their perceptions are. And their perception will trigger a different emotional response, which will then, of course, affect our physical side. So thoughts, perception becomes your reality. And sometimes it happens really, really quickly, okay? I mean, again, this is gonna be like obvious, all of us have felt that. Is like, I make birdie on, let's say, the hole 2, I'm feeling good. I walk up to the tee box on 3, crap, I always hate this flipping hole. I should be in a good mood, but I just walk, and I see this, and the flood of memories of what I don't want just, okay? And then we've had the opposite. I just 3-putted, I'm down on myself, I get up, I go, oh, I love this reachable par 5. I made eagle on last week, right? Changes our emotions quite quickly, everybody. We can help our students push where their perceptions and thoughts are and help them understand when they're getting uncomfortable. It might be just a simple definition of a story. They have a story in their head. You start hearing a lot of language. Sorry. I always hit it in the trees. I always do bad on this hole, right? Which is not a true statement, yet they want to have that story running a lot. We need to push back on those stories and those perceptions. So this has to do with now mindset. So at Flowcode, we believe the mindset. What's your belief about what you're about to do? Okay? When we had that picture of the par 3, you were grateful, right? This is pretty cool. That's much different than, oh crap, don't go left, it's fearful. That's a mindset. That's my belief about what's in front of me. So we teach these 7, there's many, many mindsets, everybody, competitive mindset, this mindset, but we feel to put somebody in a optimal state, these tend to be the most common ones. And you'll see on the right-hand side, gratitude. That's been now studied over and over and over as one of the most powerful emotions you can ever have. I'm grateful for this experience. I'm grateful for the opportunity to hit the shots. I'm grateful that I got paired with this really good player. I got boop, 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 boop. Very, very powerful. I mentioned like with the 16th hole at Augusta, playful, right? They were little kids going, okay. And they're counting out 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And they're childlike, they're playful. Growth mindset has been a very important one because we're talking about learning. And there's a great book called Mindset by Carol Dweck, Stanford psychologist. And basically, and there's more nuances to this, right? Somebody in a fixed mindset, right? I go take a golf lesson with David. I'm a horrible putter. I've tried everything, David. Good luck. Oh, this will be a fun lesson, right? Okay. Or growth, like, I've tried a few different things. I know I can get better at the skill. I just need a little guidance. I'm willing to try different things, right? And we're always learning, adjust, learning, adjust. How quickly can we get that feedback loop working in a way of learning instead of hit the first putt? See? I told you I'm a horrible putter. Okay, the fixed mindset. Let's push people to grow and learn about their shots. The creator mindset I like a lot. I do this with a lot of the junior golfers. Creator is kind of like this ownership. Like I get to create the shot. I get to create the outcome. Sometimes you get some players that are a little entitled, okay, or they're victims. Oh, I hate that one. I played bad because it was windy. I played bad because it was bumpy greens. I played bad because the pace of play, blah, 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 blah. Right? Victim, 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 victim. Okay, one of my favorite stories working with Colin when he was a junior. 16-year-old, he just played PGA National Bear Trap, pretty challenging golf course, in an AJGA event. Comes to our golf lesson. I knew he had shot 84, which was his highest score at that time by far. And before I could say anything, he goes, Rick, we need to learn how to flight irons in the wind. I was exposed. There's a lot of wind at PGA National. We grew up in Los Angeles, not a ton. And so instead of saying, I played bad because of the wind, it was, I need to get better at flighting irons. Do you think he minds wind nowadays? He's a pretty good ball striker. Okay? Bring it on. I know how to flight it. I know how to trap it. Great. But he knew where his ability, where it was exposed or that blind spot, and says, I can do something about it. Growth mindset. He held himself accountable. I mean, we don't see that all the time, do we? There's other things that can help us in getting into a flow state, and some of them we'll get into a little bit later. But the awe mindset is always an interesting one when you go to a place for the first time, and it's just this beautiful setting. And you're like, this is cool, right? And you're just taking that in. That changed your state, right? So you get to choose the mindset that you're going to bring to it. Okay. So I'm going to get into some science stuff here in a moment. Before I do, is there any questions so far? I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff. Yes.
Hopefully you can answer this quickly. The mental stuff obviously is extremely important. How do you, for a junior obviously who's younger, who hasn't developed, where the patterns aren't as ingrained, is easier, but like how do you get somebody who has these patterns ingrained, for 20, 30, 40 years to first buy into it, but then to gradually change?
Yeah.
Because it seems like it goes back to childhood, parenting, what you observe, your environment.
Sure.
It seems to be there's a lot that affects this.
Yeah. I mean, no, the peeling of that onion just keeps going, doesn't it? So I do a lot of full-day schools at country clubs and really cool places. And I did one at Sleepy Hollow Country Club. And, they came after the end of the day. It was like 10 people. They go, thank you for not trying to change my grip, change my stance. But they were now looking at it like, wow, I could see I'm really hard on myself. I could see, why am I playing this game, right? And these are a bunch of 14 handicaps, everybody, okay? But I needed to shift their mindset of what golf was, okay? Are they still going to have that pattern of that weak right? Yes, honestly. I'm trying to minimize the dispersion of how the weak goes over there, okay? And is it possible, if I got them more relaxed, more rhythmic, that could help their golf game? Maybe, without changing a swing. But what they were fascinated with was when they really started to become aware of how distracted they usually are playing golf. They're just rushing things, or they're so concerned about what other people think, and there's like, and they go, Rick, I've never looked at the lie, right? Or they'll say it's a good lie, bad lie. That's a good lie, it's a bad lie. That's irrelevant. That ball's below your feet. Most likely, what will that do? Well, I don't know. Now we have that opportunity to teach them how to play golf, right? So I don't know if I'm answering your question exactly. Sometimes we have motor patterns that you're right. They're going to have that weak slice probably the rest of their life. But I want to improve their enjoyment. I want to improve their decision making with better focus. I want them to play within themselves, and I want them to not beat themselves up after every poor shot. And then they come and they go, oh, I have my own patterns, my own behavioral patterns I need to change, but thank you. I think I'm going to enjoy the game more, right? Now, the elite players, they're about performance. Honestly, I need to shoot lower scores. I need to get to Q school. That's where it starts. But then we're saying, okay, keep working on your putting, keep working on your swing. But I want them to understand that performance is state dependent. So I try to share, say, has there been a time that you were completely focused, completely calm? What did the ball do? Completely distracted, completely fearful. They'll go, oh yeah, I felt different. That's how I try to intertwine it a little bit more. Okay? Any other questions before I move on to a slightly different subjects? Okay, cool. So a lot of mental game coaches will tell you to take a deep breath when you are under stress. Okay, you will never hear me say deep breath, ever. We know that there's breathing patterns and there's rhythms, and we know that having a smooth, rhythmic breath is far better than, even I'm a little lightheaded now doing that, right? That's not optimal. But maybe when I'm in a stressed state, I am doing short breaths, chest breaths, holding my breath. And we want people to understand that how they use breath can change their physiological response, but it can also be a great mechanism for them to change their focus. So these breathing rates, it is related. So flow is more like 4 or 5 breaths per minute. When we're stressed, a lot of going in and out, in and out, in and out. And so realize that breathing can be foundationally a way to kind of set a baseline. Then I can start to focus. We also use breathing in between shots. So a lot of junior golfers, they've got their push cart, and they might go inhale 1, 2, 3, exhale 1, 2, 3. They're creating a rhythm in between the shots and the transition because they're going to be in their head beating themselves up. I need to give them something else to do. And so we can use walking meditation, we can use breathing, we can use something called expanded awareness, where when somebody is stressed, their vision goes like this, and we want to get them like this, 180 degrees around, looking out in the horizon. That kind of gives your mind a little timeout. We don't call many timeouts on the golf course. We should. All other sports, basketball coach, timeout. Sit down, take a drink, take a breath. Here's a strategy. 2 minutes. We have plenty of downtime in golf. Are we using timeouts? No, we're just running the same pattern. You stink, Rick. I can't believe how bad this round is again today. Blah, 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 blah. Let's try it again. Good luck with that. So breathing is very, very important, and it will help us get into more of the parasympathetic response of the rest and the calmness. And then breathing, if it's inhale, right, it wakes us up, and that's going to change our state as we go. So now when we look at brain waves, this is the other thing that I think has been misunderstood. I had a coach who said the mental game's about not thinking. I go, what? Not thinking. Now what they meant, in all honesty, they meant when you're over the ball, right? They want to go blank, like that. And I said, yeah, but let's not just generalize it, not thinking. To me, what makes golf so great is the variability. I get to problem solve and think through this lie. Is that a fly or is that ball going to, how firm is this green? To me, that's thinking. That's awesome. Once I've made the decision and now want to execute, there will be less brainwave activity for sure. So this is what's exciting for me as a mental game coach is how do you quantify the mental game? Right? We have TrackMan, we have gears, we've got all this cool stuff. How do we quantify if somebody is improving with their mental game? And so there's some different companies out there. I use a company called Focus Calm. Okay? It's a basic EEG device that measures brainwave activity in real time. It's checking to see if I have a brain. Okay? And it's a very basic 0 to 100. You probably can't see the number, but you will see the light here. There's 0 to 35 would be very active beta, which means there's a lot of thoughts. Doesn't mean negative, so I want to make sure that's clear. It's not about negative, positive, it's about of activity. So if I'm 0 to 35, it would be red, and that would be called active or stressed. Then there's yellow, which is 35 to 65. We call that neutral. That's me talking. Right? That's probably need to talk and think a little bit as we go. And then if this went to blue, 65 to 100, they call that a focus calm. So those brain waves now, the build-up phase is the beta, which could be maybe a little red, get into yellow, and then by the time we execute the shot, we would be blue, just to kind of give it very baseline there. But if I'm and I can hit balls with this on, I've had a player, a good junior golfer, she's 76, good solid 14-year-old. She would put this on, and back here, she was about an 80, which is really good. Quiet mind, right? And then she would walk in, and it would just dive bomb. You can see it's red here. I'm trying to mimic it. Yeah, right. It's stressed, and she would go, and it would dive bomb to like a 20. Now, I already knew this, but I wanted to show her in real time how quickly her state could change. And then she was much more open to now doing breathing and visualization and different triggers to help her with that. So this is where I think the next frontier is going, is that we can now quantify these things a lot more than we could before. If I said, how was your mental game? How was your focus? The player said, I was good. Okay, you said it's good. There's no feedback loop. But now we have this, we have other things we call heart rate variability with the heart and the mind. We can look at stress response, get back to breathing patterns, get back to gratitude, different things that can change that. So we want to empower people to be able to know that in real time, they could, like for me, I get externally focused, kind of like a soft focus. And I just want to breathe, and then the number's going up a little. It didn't get to blue. But we want to empower people, again, that they can do something about it. Yes? It's called Focus Calm. We have liked it. We've partnered with them. Just a little word of warning. We're not sure how much longer they're going to be producing it. It's a robotics company, and they've decided to go into some other things. We're hoping they can stick for a couple more years. But what's going to happen in the next few years, this stuff is going to just skyrocket. Now, some of you might use Muse, you might use some focus band. Cool, awesome, good stuff. Getting it to have accuracy when you move is the biggest challenge. If you use Muse or something like that at home and do your breathing, it's going to be very accurate. Once you start moving, it's picking that up as stress, which is not really true. You're just moving. So this is going to skyrocket here in the next few years. I think also virtual reality is going to take over. So you see all the goggles, and you see Quest, you see the new Apple. We can put you now in a stressed environment, and then in real time give you some things to help you with that. To me, that's pretty cool. Okay. And then I think the simulations are getting so much better now. At an indoor facility, you could change wind direction, you can put people over water, you can try to simulate what may create stress, you can create consequences, those are the things that we can do as coaches to see at what point are they distracted, are they have doubt, okay? So brainwaves is a marker that we know relates to what a flow state is. Less brainwave activity happening at the time of performance doesn't mean it's that way the entire round. It would be impossible, plus that's not what we want. We want to be able to, thank you so much, appreciate it. Is helping people understand that the mental, emotional, physical, right? The mind body is always working together, and this is one thing. The other thing is something called neurochemicals. Neurochemicals can help us focus. They can help us feel good. They can. We have adrenaline. We have all these different. Yet flow has a certain marker of you're putting this flood of neurochemicals in your body to make you feel absorbed in the present moment. You are happy, maybe not the right word, but you're feeling good. A little dopamine. You're looking forward to hitting the shot, right? All right, I got that, right? And so we have these different neurochemicals that we now know because research has gotten so much better than it was 30 years ago that we now have, again, like I say, a flow signature for brainwaves and neurochemicals, breathing rates, and it's getting to be pretty cool. And why I emphasize this is because I've been talking about the mental game for over 20 years. And 20 years ago, if I was in front of a group like this, 80% are rolling their eyes, like, yeah, whatever, Rick. I get it. No, I get it. And I think we've now fast forward that most of you are now open to the discussion, like, yeah, I think it's important, but I'm still not quite sure how you train it. Fine. But I think we're getting to that point where the acceptance is getting there. We hear more and more athletes talk about mental game in their interviews, and they talk about mental health, right? That's a buzzword. So I want to make sure this is clear too. Mental health is going to be an issue from here until the end of society, right? It's only gotten intensified through social media, through all these different things that people compare things to. I am not a clinical psychologist. If somebody has depression or high anxiety, I refer that out. I'm a performance coach. But we need to know if it's now beyond performance to be able to outsource that. So mental health has become the buzzword. We've had gymnasts, we've had all kinds of different people come out and they're taking breaks from their sports because they didn't want a mental health break. So this is something that is definitely going to be accelerating in the years to come. So with Flowcode, I apologize. We've studied there's different things that could get somebody into a flow state. Golf is a pretty slow-moving sport, so it actually gives us even a better opportunity to do that. David was talking about skiing. Action sports is what they actually researched first. There's a book called The Rise of Superman. Stephen Kotler, who is one of the top 3 flow experts in the world, and he looked at these unbelievable tricks that people were doing on snowboards and this and that. It's like, holy smokes. And he found that that particular population group was in the flow the most. Some of that had to do with consequence. If they do a poor job or if they lose focus, they will get hurt. Okay? Ton of challenge versus skills. We want the challenge level to keep bumping up a little bit. There's creativity. Okay? And so we now, through some of this research, go, okay, well, what helped them? Could that help a golfer? Could that help a teacher? And the answer is yes. And so when you think about what drives focus, remember, flow follows focus, we need to understand that there's things that you can do. First one, sensory. If I had somebody grip the club and ask, is the right hand on firmer than the left on a scale of 1 to 10, right? I'm having their whole world be here. That's sensory. I could do breathing. Inhale 3, exhale 3. That's 6 seconds. They're focusing just on breath. There's temperature. What's become a trend is cold baths or cold plunges. I don't know if that's very popular in California. I know we're the wacky ones out there, but is like if I go take a cold shower, right? I guarantee you, if you've not done this before, those first 30 seconds is, it's cold, it's cold, it's cold. I want to get out of here. And then you breathe and go, oh, I can take that. But you are only in that present moment. You're not into the emails you need to do later. You just want to get out of there. Okay? So there's different things that we can trigger focus with that are sensory. Cognitive is a lot to do with what we call reframing a situation. How could I look at this differently? What could I think about right now? I can, instead of looking at it as a threat, I can look at it as a challenge. Oh, cool, I can't wait to take on this challenge, right? And that can shift our attention to what we want, and it can also just shift our overall mood. Social flow is interesting in that we've all had that experience where we've been with a group, our 3 buddies, beautiful day, course is in great shape, pace of play is great, and we just go, yeah, I was in flow. Part of it was the interaction with our buddies, beautiful day, which is environmental flow. Yet, can you duplicate that in a tournament? You don't get to pick who you played with. Sometimes you're playing a golf course that's where they're having it at, and you may not have any positive or negative associations with it. So social flow is nice. It's usually not a repeatable way to do it. And then environment, same thing. Like if I play a Kapalua in Maui, it's like, awesome, this is cool, right? More likely I'd be in a flow state than a course that I grew up on that I've played 500 times, right? There's just a different triggers that are happening in there. Flow has a lot to do with ritual and routines, okay? Is I am now in my routine asking questions, visualizing the shot tracer, practicing feeling that, remembering past great shots I did, right? I have a lot of stuff that I can do in a routine to help me be here and now. Intention. This one, people go, I never thought about it this way. people have an intention they want to hit a good shot. I want you to have an intention you're going to hit the shot in a flow state. I'm showing up to this shot focused, confident, and calm, not I hope I'll be in a flow state. Okay, intention. And then the last one, flow recall, is one of my favorite, is remember a time you were in a flow state. So one of my favorite experiences when I was with Colin was obviously the 2020 PGA Championship. Final round, 16th hole. He hits driver, as you remember, hits it to 7 feet, makes eagle. Okay. A little backstory on that. The plan was never to hit driver that week. He never did it in practice rounds. It was going to be a little hybrid flip 60. But that day, as he just sees Paul Casey make birdie to tie him, looks at his yardage book, goes, tee box is up. Wind direction is different, left to right. Flag's front up there. If I land it there, which is my stock driver, it just all checked all his boxes. So in the moment, he was very much, this is what the shot is. And they asked him afterwards, they go, wow, how'd you do that? And he goes, I just remembered a month previous, we were playing Muirfield Village it was during COVID, so they played it back-to-back weeks. And one of them was called the Workday Championship before the next day, or the next week it was called the Memorial. And they moved 14 up to a reachable par 4, which they rarely do. And he hit it 2 days in a row, and he goes, I just did it last month. It's the same exact number. Just do it now. It's like, ooh, easy peasy, right? Did it, remember it, numbers all match. Okay, let's go do it. So flow recall is all of us have performed in a flow state before. We've hit golf shots in a flow state. Can we recall those great shots and bring them here? Most people, it's about what they don't want and the threat. Okay, and then yes, they'll have evidence. Yes, I always do bad on this hole. I remember 2 holes ago I hit driver over there, don't do that. I mean, that's what we're fighting against. So just realize that there's different channels that we can get into. So I already explained a little bit about Focus Calm and where I think technology is going. It's going to be very helpful in the future for the mental game, for us to be able to measure brainwave activity and heart rate variability. We work with a company called NeuroPeak Pro, the next belt. I don't know if you've seen that. So it goes around the diaphragm and teaches us how to properly breathe. It's measuring heart rate variability in the same time. That's a great company. So we know there's some metrics now, which is very, very exciting to kind of work off of. This is, and I think it's cut up in half on your handout. My goal has always been to make the mental game as tangible as possible and something that a student could look at and go, oh, I know what I need to do when I get to the ball and when I look at the information, when I make a decision, right? Golf swing happens in less than a second and a half, yet there's a lot of other time that we can help our students utilize that. So this is something we call anatomy of a shot. I'm not going to get to it in too much there, but it's helping people understand that I have given golf lessons where that's all we do is take them around the clock. And what are their processes as we go, and we experiment with different breathing rates, different visualizations, so on and so forth. Okay. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here at South Texas PGA. It's a passion for me to share because I've seen what it does for my students and how it's impacted so many players. And I do know that the mental game is going to be a key puzzle piece as we move forward. And to be able to share that information with you, really, really appreciate. I know you were sent some stuff through email where we have this, we want to show you more what we do at Flowcode. We have so much content, but you're going to get a little taste of some of those things. I mean, we have 40 different junior golf meditations, not just meditations, junior golf meditations, right? We have breathing rates, we have different routines you can utilize, so on and so forth. So we want people to be able to train it at home, so then they can bring it out on the golf course just like any other skill set. So the last thing that I want to say is flow follows focus, and I really appreciate all of you focusing on me today. So thank you so much for everything, and it seems like it was a great 2 days, right? Awesome. Thank you. What's that?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, one more big round of applause for Rick, David, and our professionals today. Well, for everyone here, you know, it's been a wonderful course of 2 days, 3 if you include some Sunday dinner and board activities. Having everybody together in one room over the course of the week is just unbelievable, and the sharing of knowledge and experiences. As everybody knows, I don't know if a PGA professional has ever told me no if I've called them and asked a question, so be sure to lean on each other and make each other better. I'm really looking forward to seeing each and every one of you over the course of the remainder of the year, whether it be at another education summit or at some tournament function that we're running. Do remember that we do have the new one-day series that just came out, some more friendly, fun formats, so be sure to check out stpga.com and our tournament schedule for those. Really just want to say thank you all for everything you do to help grow the game for our junior golfers and for our main constituents, our adults at your facilities. It truly is a great game and a game for a lifetime. At this time, we'll conclude the 56th STPGA Education Summit and Annual Meeting, and thank you all for being here. Friday's email has my cell phone number. If there's ever anything I can do for you, please reach out to me. Thank you all.